Okay, here we go. Welcome to tonight's special presentation, the Parade of Uniforms, presenting over 50 years of Pan American World Airways uniforms. I'm Joanne Swift, a board member, and also President Emeritus of World Wings International. The models this evening are former Pan Am employees and Pan Am aficionados. Keep in mind, many of the former employees you're about to meet have logged millions of hours and walked millions of miles on Pan Am airplanes. Tonight we celebrate the Boeing 314, and the iconic aircraft that took passengers for the very first time across the Atlantic. The year was 1939, and the day was exactly 12 years ago that Charles Lindbergh made his solo flight from Roosevelt Field, located right across the road from where we are tonight. The famed Dixie Clipper departed from Port Washington here on Long Island, and after stops in the Azores and Lisbon, reached its final destination, Marseille, France. 22 privileged passengers paid $375 for a one-way fare. The cabin was staffed with just male pursers and stewards. I'm introducing Jim Sprague in the uniform that was worn on the 314 flying boat. They served their passengers wearing this snappy and elegant white dinner jacket. The romantic clipper ships hailed from the beginning of passenger service across both the Atlantic and the Pacific, and they became a lasting symbol of Pan Am. Jim was hired in 1978 and trained in Honolulu. He speaks 4 languages, including Portuguese, which he put to good use to his favorite destination, Rio de Janeiro. He tells the story of his first flight to Rio, when upon arrival, he didn't feel very well. He was sure he had the flu, until 2 senior ladies informed him it was nothing but jet lag. Jim is still flying for Delta Airlines out of Seattle, and he remains jet lagged to this day. Pan Am hired its first stewardesses in 1944, when the first group of 7 stewardesses were in training. Pan Am let them choose the color of their uniform. The Smith Gray Company, designers of the uniform, presented one in gray and one in blue. Heavenly Blue was the unanimous choice, and this shade of blue was officially named Tunis Blue, after Pan Am's first chief stewardess, Elizabeth Tunis. This uniform had style and flair. The skirt had a deep front pocket, and the hat, an overseas cap, followed the military style of the pilot's uniform. This is the uniform worn during the era of the B-304 Stratoliner and the Douglas DC-3. Laura Ford, who is presenting the uniform, was hired as a flight attendant and based in Seattle. She went to United Airlines on Pack Day and is currently Dr. Laura Ford, a psychologist in private practice. She's on the staff of Seattle's long-running Fear of Flying program. Laura is being escorted by Captain Dino Balakis, whose uniform is based on that of the United States naval officer. Please take note that along with a military-inspired double-breasted jacket, he's wearing the white hat that the good guys always wore. Dino began his flying career when he soloed in a Piper Cub in 1955. He went on to be a naval aviator, a corporate pilot in Boston, and a pilot for Mohawk Airlines before finally joining Pan Am as a pilot and engineer in 1964. Unknowingly, 25 years ago today, Captain Balakis flew what was to be the final flight 441 from Miami to Rio de Janeiro. Thank you. Slide 7, please. From 1954 to 1958 showed little change in the style of the uniform. It remained classic with a slightly shorter jacket and straight skirt. The color of the Pan Am uniform remains the same for over 20 years. Other uniform requirements remain strict. Hair cut to clear the collar, true red lipstick with matching nail polish, elegant white gloves for the summer and black during the winter, and of course, girdles. This is Irena Lindbeck Tibbetts and Wendy Sue Connect modeling the uniform that was worn on the Boeing 377 Stratocruiser. It has berths and a spiral staircase leading down to a lower deck that was outfitted as a cocktail bar and was a welcome diversion during the long transatlantic flights. The Stratocruiser was renowned for its luxury service and was a favorite of passengers and movie stars. Irena was trained at Hangar 14 in 1964 and was based at JFK and in San Francisco. For many years, she was a regular on the White House press charters for both President Carter and Reagan. Wendy Sue recently published her biography entitled Life, Love, and a Hijacking, where she shares her involvement with the 1986 hijacking of Flight 73 in Karachi, Pakistan. The beautiful waltz that you were listening to, Around the World in 80 Days, it reminds us that Pan Am flew daily round the world flights. Flight 1 and took off from San Francisco and headed across the Pacific. Flight 2, affectionately known as the Deuce, headed eastbound across the Atlantic. During the jet age, it only took 3 days to fly around the world. Okay. In 1958, Pan Am took delivery of the Boeing 707 and launched the age of jet travel. On October 26, Clipper America took off on its 8-hour and 41-minute flight from New York's Idlewild to Le Bourget in Paris. It captured the imagination of people everywhere, and they began to dream of traveling to distant and exotic lands. With the advent of jets, Don Loper, a well-known and multi-talented Beverly Hills designer, created a suit with sharp, angular features, emphasizing the dynamic mood of the exciting jet age. It was bold, with a fitted short jacket, swept back cuffs, triangular faux pocket, and a matching pencil skirt with a deep kick pleat. The suit's color was once again the familiar Tunis blue. An addition of white piping and a forward fin modified the overseas cap. Susie Pilia is modeling this one for you now. Susie was hired, trained, and always based in JFK. Remember, this was the 1960s, and she was forced to resign when she became pregnant. 5 years later, she began working at the White Plains sales office and remained there until the end. Her boss in White Plains was Dick Blair of the Pan Am Historical Foundation. Susie had an encounter in flight with Salvador Dali's pet ocelot that was illegally smuggled on board. Then she had another encounter with crocodiles while water skiing in Robertsfield, Monrovia. She participated under cover of darkness in the evacuation of U.S. military dependents from Beirut during the Six-Day War. It's all in a day's work for the stewardesses of Pan Am. Joining Susie on the stage is Philip, our Master of Ceremonies this evening. Philip is wearing the steward's uniform of the 1940s, 50s, and 60s. It remains in the snappy military style. Notice the detail on the jacket sleeve, gold stripes, and underneath a motif of crossed feathers. Philip serves on the Foundation's board as Director of Communications. When Philip isn't filming on his TV set or attending to Foundation duties, he can be found doing research to acquire Pan Am artifacts and add to his already impressive collection. Leaving on a jet plane became the unofficial anthem for flight attendants everywhere. Deep pockets? Can we have a little jet plane music? On a jet plane, don't know when I'll be back again. Leaving on a jet plane, don't know when I'll be back again. Oh, babe, I hate to go. Thank you. So with the advent of jets, where am I? Okay, next page. Turn the page. This year of 1964 brought a change from the classic style. Here's a boxy jacket and Au Courant pillbox hat, reminiscent of the Jackie Kennedy look. Don Loper's design modifications showed the increasingly popular French influence on casually comfortable yet elegant day wear for women. You may recognize this uniform from the movie Catch Me If You Can. Picture Leonardo DiCaprio strutting through the Miami International Airport, surrounded by a bevy of beautiful, smiling Pan Am stewardesses. Marie Tango of Manhattan and Gail Larson of Portland, Oregon, are being escorted by our own Leonardo DiCaprio, portrayed by handsome Captain Joe Anding. Joe began his career with Pan Am in 1966 as a flight engineer on the 707 out of JFK. He was based in Berlin from 1986 to 1990. Captain Anding was an ALPA and NTSB accident investigator. He finished his career with Pan Am on the A310 at JFK before transitioning to Delta Airlines. His favorite layovers were Rio for fun, Paris for culture, and Tokyo for electronics. Meanwhile, down on terra firma, Pan Am spent a lot of money and effort ensuring that the mechanics and ramp service uniforms stayed white. Each man had a locker where he could leave his dirty, grease-stained coveralls at the end of the shift. Through the magic of an industrial dry cleaning service, a clean, bright uniform would appear for the next shift. Jeff Walsh is modeling the 1960s white jumpsuit and olive-colored parka. Notice that both the jumpsuit Notice both the jumpsuit and parka feature a large Pan Am logo on the back. Jeff's authentic Pan Am hearing protectors were designed to muffle the high-pitched sounds of the 707 jets. "1970 brought us the Boeing 747, the jumbo jet, and the airplane that made the dream of international travel a reality for millions. As we know, two aviation leaders and visionaries, Juan Trippe of Pan Am and Bill Allen of the Boeing Aircraft Company, together developed this ultimate airliner. Pan Am purchased over 60 of the awe-inspiring 747 and 747 SP airplanes. The 747 changed the world of aviation forever, and in anticipation of the new airplane, the stewardess uniform made a big change as well. This jaunty uniform was designed by Evan Picone and fashioned after a classic English riding habit. The women were now allowed to choose between two colors of uniform with a distinctive roller derby hat manufactured by Borsellino. The colors were called Superjet Blue and Galaxy Gold. Shoes and purses up until this time had all been black, and now the accessories are tan. This is the early 70s, as you can see by the length of the skirts. This uniform took us to Vietnam on the R&R flights, where the GIs fell in love with the miniskirts. Now presenting this distinctive uniform are Doreen Goad, wearing her original uniform, and Diane Nolan, both ladies based in San Francisco. From 1971 to 75, the uniform was modified, and so was the title. The uniform had a longer jacket and flared skirt, and stewardesses were now referred to as flight attendants. Boots were an option for the first time. This uniform also had the extra flair of an optional reversible cape, as Eileen Coster and Wendy Sue Connect will be demonstrating for you. I want to add, and this is that the beautiful uniform that Wendy is modeling is very special. It's the first uniform donated to the Pan Am Museum. Karina Kingson, a Manhattan chapter member of World Wings, donated her entire uniform, from the hat to the wings to the handbag and white gloves. Thank you, Karina. Your donation is a very much appreciated beginning to the museum's own uniform collection. Thank you. The structure that stands at 200 Park Avenue in New York City has a different corporate name on it today. But to all former employees, and especially those who work there, it will ever be remembered and referred to in our hearts as the Pan Am Building. In 1970, the American designer Anne Klein created a new uniform for the ladies who worked at the ticket office in the Pan Am Building. Miss Klein stated that we don't call it a uniform. The concept is a non-uniform. She continued, it's kind of like having your own wardrobe for your work life. Diane Nolan will be out here very shortly after her quick change, wearing this beautifully tailored jumpsuit option. At this time, the mod look was very much fashion forward and is reflected in the design. And we really don't know if we're going to see Diane, but if not, we'll bring her out later. But meanwhile, the screens are showing many different variations, including slacks and an orange jacket. Thank you. Okay, so now I want you to notice the shiny silver buttons on the long double-breasted jacket. The jumpsuit repeats the use of buttons on the epaulettes. And again on the screen, we have many different variations, including slacks and an orange jacket of this beautiful mix and match non-uniform. Very smart. Thank you, Diane, for that quick change. So this familiar-looking photograph is where so many of you in tonight's audience worked for many, many years. Like the airline, Pan Am's iconic world port is now gone, but not forgotten. Originally known as the UTB, or Unit Terminal Building, it was designed as a showcase for international travel. The building was particularly famous for the 4-acre suspended flying saucer roof. The terminal was expanded in 1971 to accommodate the 747, and at that time renamed Pan Am World Port. It was the world's largest airline terminal for several years and was featured in numerous movies, including James Bond, Live and Let Die, Doris Day, That Touch of Mink, and the television show Pan Am. So in 1974, Pan Am, just stay here for a minute. Perfect. You can't keep those mechanics under wraps, that's for sure. In 1974, Pan Am changed the maintenance and ramp services uniforms. The white jumpsuits were now replaced with navy blue pants and shirts. Jack Halbert is wearing the Fleet Service version of the uniform. Notice the light blue stripe across the shoulders and down the front of the jacket and shirt. As crisp as the white jumpsuits were in the 1960s, having all ground staff personnel wearing the same uniform made it difficult to determine their function. With this in mind, the ramp service uniforms were now color-coded to denote the employee's department. Blue for flight service, gray for maintenance, red for catering, yellow for aircraft cleaners, and beige for cargo. One of the most popular items in this uniform was the color-matching bump cap. Made out of plastic, while looking like a hard hat, its true function was to keep the heads dry and rain off faces in inclement weather. Okay, here's my favorite airplane, the 747 Special Performance. Capable of long-range, non-stop flights. New York to Tehran and New York to Tokyo in 13 and a half hours. The longest route was Los Angeles to Sydney, and that took 14 hours and 40 minutes. That gave passengers plenty of time to just sit back and relax. Of course, the 2 bunk rooms were a favorite with the crew. So on Valentine's Day, 1973, Pan Am's new mix and match flight attendant uniform was designed. The 8-time Academy Award-winning costumer, Edith Head, was responsible for this. It had a detailed stitching and a special little pocket for the cockpit key. And with this uniform came a big change, and it was slacks. There was an optional tunic to accompany the slacks, giving it a pantsuit effect. Notice the floating belt effect on the tunic. There were 2 colors of uniform, the bright blue and the navy. For the first time, hats and gloves were optional. Accessories were navy with a colorful red, white, and blue scarf. This is where the universe design was introduced and used on the belt buckle, the scarf, and in the top stitching of the hat. This uniform was worn until 1980. On the runway now is Pam Taylor, who began her flying career right out of college in 1964. Pam flew many of the R&R flights in and out of Vietnam, including the one on April 24th, 1975, 6 days before the tanks rolled in. That flight became the fabled last flight out of Saigon. She recalls it being a harrowing experience in the 100-degree temperature as 463 passengers boarded the overloaded 747 headed for the United States. Now joining Pam on the runway are Julie Mcnair and Annie Nichols. Julie has a very unique airline career. She began with Pan Am in '72 in Frankfurt as a passenger service agent, working the IGS departure gate. The next year she transferred to flight service in Miami, and then the furlough came. While being laid off, Julie flew for Saudia as one of the 24 foreign national flight attendants. She was kept under lock and key at the Jeddah Palace Hotel. Finally, with the help from the outside, she, along with others, escaped from Saudia and happily flew on Royal Jordanian until the recall. Next is Annie Nichols, and along with Rosemary Lusty, we're celebrating their birthdays today. Hit it, Deep Pockets. Happy birthday to you, Deep Pockets.
Everybody help us out. Happy birthday to you. 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 Happy birthday.
And thank you to our handsome captains as well. Thank you very much. In July 1989, for the first time, Pan Am introduced new uniforms for both flight service and passenger service on the same day. French designer Jean Cacharel designed the passenger service uniform in two colors for the ladies. The Pan Am blue was also known as Cacharel blue. The ladies' navy suit was worn in a fuchsia blouse. The men's uniform was navy with a more traditional-looking blue and a crew shirt. Guy Della Torre is joining us tonight wearing the lead agent version of the uniform with a famed red jacket. This uniform was worn in 1980 until the end, with the necktie being modified several times. The Pan Am Museum Foundation is pleased to have Guy volunteering to serve on its advisory board. As a high school history teacher, it's not only natural that he would collect artifacts from the world's most experienced airline. Guy is charged with developing and implementing the STEM curriculum for the Pan Am Museum Foundation. The STEM program is an acronym for Science, Technology, Engineering, and Math, and it's a necessary component for the museum to establish itself as an educational institution and engage young students in the joys of science as it relates to aviation. Pan Am's final flight service uniform was designed by Cuban-born Adolfo Sardina and worn by Pan Am's 6,800 flight attendants from 1980 to 1991. Once again, it's a classic conservative suit engaging in Adolfo's signature romantic look and simple, elegant design. It's a blend of both fashion and function. Several options include a design-winning dress for the warmer climates. The color choices were naturally navy and a light gray blue. There were two hat styles, a Scotty and a small brimmed one. Both were optional. The models are Jeannie Davis and Marie Tango, both wearing their own uniforms. They're joined by Kathy Lerner in navy blue and Nancy McCarthy in the pale blue summer dress. Notice the now familiar universe stripe motif on the hemline of the dress and on the umbrella. I just want to mention that after Jeannie flew for Pan Am for 19 years, she became a staff writer on the popular television series Laura Quinn, Medicine Woman. Irene Lindbeck is also joining them. Adolfo also designed a new uniform for the men. Please welcome Jeff Vigneault, wearing his own Adolfo for Men uniform. This uniform was available in 2 weights of wool gabardine, lightweight for the summer and heavier for the winter. The shirts were manufactured by Hathaway. This is the uniform that for the first time offered in-flight aprons for the men. Now, Jeff was hired in 1979 and met his wife Masako while based in Honolulu. He was called out of reserve for a Pango Pango trip, and she was the purser. His very next trip was a 5-day layover in Fiji, and again Masako was on the flight. So on a romantic tropical island in the South Pacific, their romance began. On layovers, Jeff enjoyed sampling all the beers of the world, and he loved flying on the 747, which he nicknamed the Workhorse. In 1985, Pan Am modified the ramp and maintenance uniforms for the last time as well. This new uniform introduced a light blue uniform shirt and a billboard-style Pan Am logo on the back of all the shirts and jackets. Here's Kelly Cusack modeling his own Fleet Service uniform. The uniform offered long and short sleeve options, as well as a polo-style shirt for the summer and tropical climates. In addition to a standard uniform jacket, an insulated vest could be substituted or worn under the jacket for added warmth. As you notice, the bump caps are gone, and they were replaced by a mesh baseball cap and a wool cap in the winter. Kelly serves on the board of directors in the capacity of Director of Collections and Curation. He's one of the top collectors of Pan Am artifacts. He's also become an aficionado and the go-to guy, as we know, on all things Pan Am. He's the one who's responsible for the design, build-out, curation, and every little detail of the first exhibit that opened up today, the Pan Am 314, An Extraordinary Story. But before he goes, I'm going to tell a little tale on him because Kelly got his early Christmas miracle. When he was trying on his uniform, he discovered that his 1985 belt still closed around his 2016 waist. Merry Christmas, Kelly. And thank you, gentlemen. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the story of the Pan Am uniforms.
I'm sorry. This may seem a bit silly.
Is that you, Hal?
Excuse me, Joanne. I'm sorry. This may seem a bit silly, but that is not the last of the uniforms. I better take control here.
Is that you, Hal?
Yes, Joanne. You forgot that Pan Am took reservations for the first moon flight. Here's the 2001 spaceship and my favorite uniform.
Start spreading the news. I'm leaving today. I want to be a part of it. New York, New York. These vagabond shoes are longing to stray right through the very heart of it. In old New York. a city that doesn't sleep, and find out king of the hill, top of the heap. These little town blues are melting away. I'll make a brand new start of it in old New York. If I can't make it fair, I'll make it anywhere. It's up to you, New York, New York. New York, New York. I want to wake up in a city that doesn't sleep, and find out king of the hill, top of the list.